Spencer Strider returned to the mound for the Atlanta Braves on Monday, and things couldn't have gone any better as he struck out 6 of the 8 batters he faced. We'll break down everything from Strider's outing, plus I'll tell you which Braves prospects are ready to break out in 2025. All that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on X at Shortstop Ball and the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Also follow the podcast on Instagram at Locked On Braves. Subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Appreciate your support. We are 10 days away from opening day. We're going to kick things off here pretty soon in San Diego, but a lot of exciting things still happening in spring training for the Atlanta Braves as we got the return of Spencer Strider, and I couldn't have been more impressed with what we saw. Got to understand it's a spring training lineup against a AAA team from the Red Sox, but the stuff looked outstanding. We'll break down everything from Strider's start on Monday. On this episode, I'm also going to tell you which Braves prospects are ready to break out in 2025, so you won't want to miss that. A lot coming your way on today's episode. The Braves made a signing at catcher. Drake Baldwin's still the guy, but the Braves do add some more depth at the catcher position. Again, a lot to discuss on today's episode of Locked On Braves, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, let's get into it. I can't wait to talk about it anymore. I have never been this exciting for really anything in spring training. The last time I can remember being somewhat excited about this is Jason Hayward, maybe, or Ronald, or Michael Harris. We'll say that Michael Harris, his spring training and the performance that he put on really before he took off and his prospect stock took off. That was exciting, but just a singular performance, especially from a pitcher. I don't know of a time that I've ever been as excited as I was to watch Spencer Strider on Monday, and for a lot of reasons. I mean, he was the NL Cy Young favorite going into last year. It was looking like he was becoming the most dominant pitcher in baseball 2 starts in, and he's done for the season. And so a lot of that excitement was taken away. And that's one of my big takeaways from this. We talked a lot about how last year was it was tough season. It wasn't a lot of fun. And we were reminded why when we see Strider do stuff like he did on Monday, and even the videos that we've seen from Acuna. Look, we are spoiled as Braves fans with all of the great talent that this team has. Matt Olson can hit the ball a ton. Austin Riley's a fun player to watch. Michael Harris, Spencer Schwellenbach, Chris Sale. These are all fun players to watch. But when Spencer Strider takes the mound, it's must-see TV. When Ronald Acuna Jr. is at the plate, it's must-see TV. They're on a different level of excitement because they can do things that other players can't. And that was taken away from us last year. In the first 2 starts of the year for Strider, the first 2 months for Acuna, which obviously those weren't the funnest months to watch from him. That was taken away from us last year. And I get it. We're spoiled. There's still a lot of talent there, although a lot of that talent ended up getting hurt as well. But I miss that excitement of a Strider start and not knowing, is he going to come out and strike out 20 batters today? Is Acuna going to come out and hit 2 home runs and steal 3 bases today? That's the level of excitement that those 2 players bring that we missed last year. And yes, there was a lot more to it, why last year just wasn't a lot of fun and was hard to get through. But that start today from Strider and just the excitement around it. The guy got a standing ovation at a spring training game coming off the mound. It's just a different level of excitement when Strider's on the mound, when Acuna's at the plate, and that was taken away from us last year. And I hope we get a lot of that this upcoming season and far beyond that, because Monday was just electric. It was just a lot of fun watching Spencer Strider back on the mound and watching him dominate. 2 2/3 innings, no hits, no walks, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. You could not have scripted a better performance from Spencer Strider. Yeah, I guess he could have struck out everybody. He almost did. And the box score doesn't show it, but I'm pretty sure the pitch count was either at 30 or 29 or 30, I think is what I saw on his last pitch there. So he was efficient as well. You know, the one thing you really worry about for somebody coming back from injury, and I know it wasn't full-blown Tommy John, but still pretty significant surgery that he had, you worry about the command. He had no problem throwing strikes in this one. Jessica says 27 pitches. I think it was somewhere around there in the upper 20s. Either way, just super efficient. I mean, setting them down in order, throwing strikes. Obviously, we all wanted to see the velocity and where was it at. And overall, it probably was down a little bit. We did see him touch 98 in the first inning. In the second inning, we saw him touch 97, but it was mostly 95, 96 in the first inning, and then second inning, 93, 94, started to go down a little bit. But even in that final frame, in that third inning, you saw him hit 97. And the only way I would have been concerned about the velocity, if he came out and it was 92, 93, and he was topping out, 95, 96, it would have concerned me a little, not too much, because I mean, it's still his first outing, after coming back. We've been throwing bullpens, but his first outing, on a mound in a game competition, as competitive as it might not be. So I wouldn't have been overly concerned, but if he were sitting more 92, 93, topping out, 94, 95, that would have been I wouldn't be nearly as excited as I am. But to see him come out there and pop 98, pop 97 like that, it's in the tank, and it's just going to get better from there. So that was the only real concern that I had for Strider coming back, is can he get to that velocity? And through one spring training start, I think the answer to that is yes. He can certainly get to that velocity. If he's able to do that in his first start back from spring training, again, as he gets stronger, as he ramps up, I think you're going to see him more consistently be able to hit 97, 98, and he can sit 95, 96. That's not a problem. But it's just knowing that he has it in the tank to be able to get to 97, 98, 99, like he's capable of, and to see him be able to do that. I'm sure he's a little pumped up and fired up as well. But see him do that in his first spring training start back, I got no worries about the velocity with Strider going forward. And look, even if he was sitting 90, 93, 94, the slider was as filthy as it's ever been. Tight break on it. A lot of swings and misses on that. He threw a couple of curveballs. So a lot of you have asked me, is he going to ditch the curveball? Absolutely not. He threw it a couple of times in that first inning. Some really good ones. He did hang one, but some really good ones in there as well. And you saw a couple of good changeups too. So you saw 4 pitches from Spencer Strider in 2 2/3 innings. He threw it all out there and it all looked good. He had command of all of it. So I don't know what more you would have wanted to see from Spencer Strider in this. Yes, I get it. This was a Boston Red Sox AAA team. You did have a David Hamilton at the top, of Vaughn Grissom, guys who have had plenty of big league experience. You had 2 of the top prospects in all of baseball, and Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. But this was a AAA team, if not worse, for the Red Sox, and you have to consider that. But I wouldn't really have cared who he was facing. It was more about where was the velo, how sharp does his stuff look, and he checked both of those boxes for me in this one. It is one spring training outing. I get that, but the stuff just looked good. The velo was there, and that's all I really needed to see from Spencer Strider to know that he can get back to being one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And I know that probably sounds outlandish to say after 2 2/3 innings in spring training, but again, the stuff is ridiculous, and the stuff was still there, and the velo was still there. So I am completely excited about Spencer Strider. Now, the next question everybody's going to be asking, and that I'm wondering, what is the timeline now? Because we've seen him in spring training. We've seen the dominant stuff from him. We all want him back on a major league mound, but we have to tamper the expectations a little bit. It's his first spring training outing. They could give him another one, at the beginning of next week in spring training, maybe a Saturday, Sunday next week. They could start him again, but they may need those innings to go to guys who will actually be on the opening day roster. If not, he'll probably pitch in a minor league game, throw another 30 to 45 pitches, stretch it out a little bit more, and then another outing at about 45 to 60 pitches on opening day weekend, possibly for Gwinnett at that point, and then another one the first weekend in April at around 60 to 75 pitches. And then I'd imagine he's probably going to make at least 3 starts at Gwinnett. The last one that weekend of April 11th. I think the earliest that we might see Spencer Strider with the Atlanta Braves is against the Twins at home on April 18th, or maybe at some point in that homestand, which starts with the Twins and ends with the Cardinals. If I had to guess right now, based on what we saw today, there's probably needs to be another 3 to 4 starts for him getting ramped up. And I think the earliest that we could see him is that April 18th weekend at home against the Twins in the Cardinals. That's what I would be circling right now as a fan. Again, no timeline's been given. That's just me kind of working it out myself and thinking when he could come back. But I was certainly impressed with Spencer Strider, as a lot of you were, but let me know your thoughts. Maybe you're not buying into it just yet. Do you need to see a little bit more from Spencer Strider? Or if you're like me, or you through the roof with what you saw from Spencer Strider on a Monday, let me know in the comments section below. But he wasn't the only pitcher we were keying in on Monday. Ian Anderson still battling for a spot in the rotation. How did he look? Did he look any better than his previous starts? We'll discuss that here next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is the high-protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shell variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, getting ready for the podcast, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Whether you're running between the meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's hard to lose, or it's easy to lose track, rather. That's where Monarch Money doesn't make it so hard, because they come into play here, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Well, as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Again, regular season is just around the corner, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And when you're done listening to this one, go give Sully a listen at Locked On MLB. He's covering everything happening around Major League Baseball, getting you ready for the 2025 season, and probably going to be talking about that Tokyo series that gets underway here in less than 12 hours if you're going to wake up early or stay up late to watch that one. I'm looking forward to it. Be watching it with one eye open this morning, but excited for some Major League Baseball. All right, before we get into breakout prospects this year, though, do need to touch on Ian Anderson as he followed up Spencer Strider on Monday. I sent out a meme from _Braves on X, like how Ian Anderson sitting there having to follow what Spencer Strider just did. Nobody could, but certainly he got overshadowed in this game. And it was honestly the same Ian we've seen all spring training, and honestly the same Ian that we've seen for most of his career. Only allowed 2 hits over 5 innings. That's fantastic. That's great. But he walked 5 batters and had just 2 strikeouts in this one. The changeup is still a devastating pitch that gets whiffs, gets ground outs, but just not much else that I'm seeing from Ian Anderson right now. The runs he gave up came after a pair of walks to start the inning. He got a strikeout, got a ground out, which is what he can do and what he can do with that changeup. But then he left a fastball up in the zone, and Marcelo Meyer just lined it out of Riley's reach to knock in the 2 runs, only runs that Braves pitching allowed on this day. I still think he's going to be given a shot in the rotation to begin the year. I don't think the Braves are just going to DFA him, risk losing that depth. I think he's going to be in the rotation to begin the year. Or the alternative is, if nobody grabs hold of that final bullpen role, you don't feel comfortable about Anderson PR or anybody else taking that final bullpen role, you could either, one, stick AJ Smith-Shawver in the rotation. As I've said, I think he is the better pitcher right now, the pitcher that I trust the most between he and Ian Anderson. So you could stick AJ Smith-Shawver in the rotation, put Ian Anderson in the bullpen as a, if something goes wrong, break glass in case of emergency situation, you can bring in Ian Anderson, have him as that swingman, long reliever, or you could go to a 6-man rotation, or you could put Ian Anderson in the rotation. And maybe what I might prefer is you put AJ Smith-Shawver in that same role that you had Spencer Strider in to begin a couple of years ago, where you use him out of the bullpen for maybe the first month of the season, let him get his feet wet. I know he's already pitched, but just that consistency at the big league level. And if he continues to show strides and shows command there, you can consistently use him in 2-3 inning outings. And then eventually by mid-May, maybe you insert him into the rotation depending on how things go. So I think there's several different ways the Braves could handle this. They could have Ian Anderson and AJ Smith-Shawver both on the roster. They could obviously keep Ian Anderson and option AJ Smith-Shawver. But I think there's multiple ways that they can do this, because I just don't know if there's anybody that I really want in that final bullpen spot. I don't know if there's anybody that I really trust or that has deserved it. But I do think AJ Smith-Shawver has pitched better than Ian Anderson and probably deserves a chance over Ian Anderson. But I understand the reasoning for not wanting to get rid of that depth. So I think that's, there's several ways there, like I said, that the Braves could go. But I do think in some way Ian Anderson's going to get an opportunity on the roster to begin the year. All right, let's talk prospects. Let's switch gears here. And I'm going to tell you which prospects I think are ready to break out in 2025. My first one is Garrett Bauman. And it was a rough showcase for Bauman on Sunday against the Tigers in the spring breakout game. He gave up 4 runs on 2 hits and 5 walks in 1 inning with no strikeouts. But that is not indicative of the pitcher that he's been. While I love these spring breakout games, it's a showcase of some of the top prospects. We are going to overanalyze and overhype prospects who had one good game. And as you all know, as baseball fans, one good game means nothing. Any player can have one good game. Any great player can have just the worst game ever in one game setting like that. But it was a rough one for Garrett Bauman. But even in that, he was clocked at 99, 100, throwing very fast, perhaps overthrowing a little bit with 5 walks, because it's somebody that's had great command through his young career here. That's what's been maybe most impressive about him, is the fact that he just doesn't walk anybody. And in 1 inning, he walked 5 batters in that one. So rough one for him, but I'm still very excited about what this season looks like. The second half of last year, we really saw the strikeouts take off for him. It's been somebody that's really just pounded the zone, got a lot of quick outs, worked deep into ball games, but hasn't struck out a lot of batters. In the second half of last year, you saw him start to put it all together and do both. Be able to go deep in the games and strike out a lot of batters. You're seeing this velo tick up. Maybe it was just because it was in a short stint was why it was so high, but knowing that he has that in there, I think could be very big for him. He'll likely begin the year back at high A. He's still just 20 years old, but I think he's somebody that could be top 5 in the Braves system by the end of the year. Again, if that command stays like it has been, you do see that velo tick up and you see those strikeouts continue to come like we saw the second half of last year. I think there's a chance not only could he be a top 5 Braves prospect, but I think he could be up where AJ Smith-Shawver, have the rise of an AJ Smith-Shawver type and be a top 100 overall prospect. I think that much of Garrett Bauman. The second one is a guy who actually did perform well in the showcase game, and that is Didier Fuentes. And that's somebody that, if you haven't heard of him before past Sunday, you're hearing about him now. The 19-year-old was tremendous on Sunday, 7 strikeouts in 3 innings, only 1 hit with no walks allowed. He was named to the MLB Pipeline All-Spring Breakout First Team. Didn't know that was a thing, but he made the first team there, which means we're hopefully going to get a good card from him in MLB The Show Spring Breakout Program. I believe the game full access comes out tonight, and there's a spring breakout program in that. So I would love to see a Didier Fuentes card. Garrett Spain at Braves MILB on X. He put me on a Didier about a year ago, I guess, so much so that I picked Fuentes up in my Dynasty League, and that's looking like a really good pickup for me at the moment. In that game, he topped out at 99. Braves got a lot of pitchers with velo right now. He got 10 whiffs in those 3 innings. Last year at Augusta, Fuentes had a 2.74 ERA and a 1.02 whip in 75 2/3 innings with 98 strikeouts and a walk per 9 of just 2.50. So obviously very impressive. He'll likely begin the year at Rome. but everyone's on notice now, so it's hard to even call him. I had him on this list before what he did on Sunday. I've talked about him on here. Again, Garrett put me onto him last year, but everybody's on notice now. Everybody knows who Fuentes is, and they're kind of expecting the breakout season now where you could see him rise up and be a top 100 prospect. My next one in here is Jose Perdomo, and this is more of hope than anything substantial, anything that we've seen to predict a breakout. This is more on just hope that the Braves need one of these international position players to be a stud, to break out, to be that big prospect. Last season was basically a lost year for him with the injury, but hopefully that's all behind him now. I did have a listener who apparently knows Jose Perdomo, sent some video to me of him taking BP, and it looked, as impressive as you would hope in a batting practice type of session. It sounds like he'll begin the year in the Florida Complex League if he were to dominate there. And look, he is still very young. He's 18, doesn't turn 19 until September. But if he were to just dominate the Florida Complex League, looks like he just does not belong there in the first month or so. We could see him make the jump to Augusta. And that's my hope. And that's what I would consider a breakout for him this year. If he did go to the complex, and you can just tell he's a man among boys there, which is crazy to say for somebody that's just 18. But if it just looks like that talent level isn't going to be able to hold him, that's what I'm hoping for. Then I think we could see him make the jump to Augusta. But again, he is just 18, doesn't turn 19 until September. So if he doesn't do that, there's still no concern, and he'll probably be on this list for me next year. But again, this is just a lot of hope for me. The Braves need Jose Perdomo. They need one of these international prospects to really take off. And I think he can do that. Again, he was going to start the year at the Complex League last year. I think the Braves thought that much of him to get him stateside from the get-go as a 17-year-old, but he had the injury. Again, basically a lost year for him, hardly got to play at all. So hopefully we'll get to see that this season for Perdomo. J.R. Ritchie, another guy who pitched in the showcase on Sunday. This isn't really considered a breakout for me. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know how much I love J.R. Ritchie. I've had him ranked in my top 5 for the Braves prospects the last 2 seasons. Some people are kind of down on him, which is why I do think it's worth mentioning him here. It sounds like the velocity was back in the showcase game, and I didn't get a chance to watch that, but it sounds like he was hitting 97, 98. Maybe it's because it was a shorter stint. We're going to need to see him hold that velocity deep into starts, but that's where he was before the injury last year, when he was having a breakout before he got hurt. And if that velo is back, this guy, J.R. Ritchie, is going to take off because he has a command. He has the pitch ability. If he gets that velo back, you're going to see the swing and miss, and he's going to be right back to where he was before he had Tommy John surgery. And it was looking like he was going to become one of the best pitching prospects in the Braves system. So I'm very high on J.R. Ritchie. I'll mention a couple of the other names here. Carlos Lara, he broke out 2 years ago, then took a step back last year. So I'm hoping for another breakout this year. John Gill, he's a solid hitter. We talked about him on here a good bit. I can see him becoming a top 10 prospect for the Braves this year. He apparently left Sunday's game injured. We'll see if that delays his start to the season, but a really good bat in the system. Nick Montgomery also played in the game on Sunday. He is maybe the most interesting bat from last year's draft. And then last name I'll mention, Ellison Joseph, big-time arm. He had a K/9 of almost 13 last year and finished the season at Double-A. If the walks get under control, he could debut this season. All right, next we'll get into some news of the day, including another catcher signing and some more players being reassigned. We'll get into all of that here next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
So the Braves do go out and sign another catcher. I didn't think they were going to, or so close to opening day, but the Braves do sign James McCann to a minor league deal. And I love this deal. Obviously, you get a veteran like that on a minor league deal. I wonder if this means, I know that the Braves reassigned Kurt Casale, but I wonder if he didn't accept that assignment, if that's what this means. And so the Braves are going to bring in James McCann to add more depth along with Sandy Leon. I do not think this has anything to do with Drake Baldwin. He's going to be the opening day catcher. James McCann still needs time to get ready for the season. So Drake Baldwin's still going to be your opening day catcher at this point. They haven't officially announced it yet, but he's caught all the Braves regulars. He caught Spencer Strider on Monday. He's caught Chris Sale twice. He caught Schwellenbach the other day. All signs are pointing towards Drake Baldwin being that guy, but James McCann does add a little bit more depth to the system. So again, the catcher position, I said this before spring training, even before the Sean Murphy injury, I think is the best and deepest group that the Braves have. I mean, Sean Murphy goes down, you got the top prospect and Drake Baldwin ready to go. Chadwick Trump has been able to step up and deliver at times. Sandy Leon, looked good in spring training, and he's a good veteran. And James McCann, also a good veteran. So the Braves catcher room is very good, very talented, and that's just not one position that I'm really all too worried about. Profar has taken BP. They'll work out on Wednesday, and the Braves hope to get him in games soon after that. So we could see Profar back in spring training action this weekend, getting ready for opening day. It's not breaking news, but Chris Sale was officially named the opening day starter. And before the game on Monday, I thought this was kind of prophetic. They asked Chris Sale about the impact of Spencer Strider, and Chris Sale pretty much reminded people, or wanted people to remember, that Strider is still the best pitcher on this team. And this is a guy that just won the NL Triple Young, won the NL Cy Young, and he's here to remind people that Spencer Strider is still the best arm on this team. Now, I think that's Chris Sale just being a good veteran. But then Spencer Strider goes out and does what Spencer Strider did, and it does remind us that he is still a very talented arm, perhaps one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Mentioned this already, but Sandy Leon was reassigned as the game started on Monday. So pretty much all confirms that Baldwin will be the primary catcher to begin the season, with Trump as the backup. I'm interested to see what they do, though, in those first 2 to 3 weeks without Sean Murphy. Does Drake Baldwin get the lion's share of the starts, or is it a 50-50 split? I hope we get to see Drake Baldwin starting most of those games, starting 2 out of every 3 games. I hope that's what they do with both Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy when he comes back. Garrett Cooper and Connor Capel were reassigned to minor league camp over the weekend, along with Jake Diekman, Buck Farmer, Kurt Casale, and Jake Marisnik. Braves are now down to 37 players, or 36 players, I believe, in camp now with the Leon reassignment. Notable here, Jake Diekman and Buck Farmer, they are out of the running for the final bullpen spots. I mentioned that last week. I thought they were on the outside looking in when I did my final opening day roster predictions. But that is the news from the day. A lot to get to on today's episode. And now I'm about to jump off because we got our Locked On Braves fantasy baseball draft. Thank you to everyone who responded wanting to be in the league. Unfortunately, only a 12-team league, so I couldn't get everybody in. But thank you so much for those who sent in requests wanting to join. Hopefully, we'll get you in there next year. But to the guys who are ready to draft, get over there, get ready, because I'm coming to dominate. Looking forward to that. And we got baseball happening in less than 10 hours in the Tokyo series. So make sure you subscribe here to Locked On Braves on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Follow us on social media at @shortstopball, at @LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.